Christ-compelled multiplication.
Christ-compelled multiplication.
Christ-compelled multiplication.
Well, Christ-compelled multiplication, I believe at the heart of it is where you multiply your vibrant relationship with the Lord into other people.
I just think about the joy I experienced as a kid of like being able to go to a church and feeling completely loved by the people around me.
Say like, hey, I saw somebody shine the light into my life. I'd like to shine the light in other people's lives too.
So you don't just keep it to yourself, but you seek to multiply it.
And so I think for me, a lot of multiplication is through relationships.
Just like Jesus did, he poured his life into a few people, and then those few people poured their life into other people, and you have this kind of ripple effect.
When we take and invest into the life of someone else, we are saying, follow me as I follow Christ. What you see me do that resemble the life of Christ, now you go and do the same.
This spirit of multiplication is running through the church into other people that are now affecting their circle.
The source of this light came from Christ, and people continuously pass that torch to others and others, and they all multiply, but this torch still, the root is Christ.
We believe that we're called as a church to be a river. A river receives and gives, receives and gives.
And it looks different from person to person because it is uniquely, individualistically relational. But then we see that on a broad scale too. We want that person or this group of people to do the same thing, to experience freedom and life in Christ, and then to pass that on to other people, other groups, other neighborhoods, other cities and states and countries all across the world, that we as a tribe of Free Methodists can help pass on the freedom that we've experienced in Jesus.
So we are continuing our series here called This Is Us. We're talking about our identity as a Free Methodist church. Remember, the most important reason why we are Free Methodists is because we're right and everybody else is wrong. That's not true. That's not true at all. No, we hold this very humbly of going, you know what, God has, all a denomination is a gathering of people that are kind of going, hey, you know what, we're moving in the same direction. We're kind of living out this call that God has on our life, and we want to be encouraging and empowering one another as we move along together towards this. And so it's important for us to talk about our values. Why would you want to be part of something that you don't know what we believe in? And so this is not an exhaustive thing of what we believe as much as just saying, hey, these are 5 really, really important pieces to us. So we've already talked about the first 2. The first one is that we ground ourselves into the Bible, into Scripture as our guiding authority for our life and our faith and our practices. Last week we talked about we believe that out of that truth of Scripture, that God not only forgives us and saves us, but that He gives us the power to live new lives, and we want to be growing and stepping into that. And that is dominated by not us trying really hard as much as us growing closer to Him. He is that source of holiness in our life. And so for us to really become the people that He has created us to be, we need to draw close to God and let Him do His perfect work. All right, so those are the last 2 weeks. Today, we are going to talk about Christ-compelled multiplication. This is probably a little bit of a, I don't want to say goofier one, but I mean, that's not a string of words that you kind of come across in any type of normal sense here. So we need to kind of unpack this, and it really flows out of the first 2 of going, you know, if we say what God says is what's true, it's the guiding force of our life, that leads us to that second step of going, look, who He calls us to be, we want to live that out. We want to be that new life that He calls us. And when we experience that, then we step into this third one, where we go, how we see our faith is not that it's a private matter. That's what the world wants to tell us. I don't know if you've picked up on their subtlety or not so subtle at times of going, you know what? It's fine if you want to believe in God. You better keep that in your back pocket, though. You don't bring that out. That's just private. That's only for you. we go, no, this isn't just private. It's a personal thing, but it's not private. This is something that is meant to grow and expand. So I've got to step out of the season again, just like I did last week, and we want to talk about gardening. I know it feels like it is about 1,000,000 miles away. How many gardeners do I have in here? Come on, people. Give it up here. Yeah. I'm not one of you. I'm not a gardener. I'm an eaterer. I eat out of the garden. In fact, that is why I'm so big. I was raised on a garden, and they said, well, what's the secret? I said, well, it's not just that I eat vegetables, it's that I didn't wipe the dirt off the vegetables. Lots of fertilizer in there. That's good. You're keeping up with this. That's all right. All right, so, the thing about gardening is, from what a little bit that I've learned, is it is a little bit tricky. I mean, it's as simple as going, I get some seeds, I put them in the dirt, and I let them grow, right? I mean, it's the simplest process, but really, there's a lot of components to this of going, you got to have kind of the right soil, you got to have healthy soil. You don't have to have perfect soil, but you've got a good, healthy soil. You got to have the right amount of water to it, not too much, not too little. You got to have the right amount of sun, not too hot, not too cold, right? You got to have kind of all these ingredients. But how do you know that you have a healthy garden? How do you know? Come on, this is not hard here. How do you know? It grows, right? I mean, there's really one measure of this. That's it. Is it growing? Is it producing the type of things that I'm looking for? And it just kind of being a leafy plant is not necessarily enough. Like, is it producing the beans and the peppers, right? It is designed to grow. God made those seeds to go, okay, you put them in the dirt, you water, you sunshine, you do a little bit of this, maybe a happy dance around them, talk to them a little bit. I don't know. And eventually they'll grow up and they produce and they give you something. You can see it. And so that is the basic principle really behind this idea of multiplication, is that healthy things grow. And it's the exact same thing in the church. The church is not meant to be this static little gathering of people where we kind of stay the same. It never started out that way. It never was meant to be that way. And for most of us, we can kind of look at a church and go, whether that's healthy or not. And it's not just about whether we like it or not, but we can go, is that thing growing? When we say we are about and value Christ-compelled multiplication, we mean that we affirm and embrace this reality of going, our faith is to grow. Our churches are to grow. This movement is to grow. It's to produce something, not just stay the same. So let's go all the way back to the story from the very start of the church. This goes back into the book of Acts. This is the recordings of when Jesus has started the church. The Holy Spirit comes down, and Peter preaches this great sermon. He has a PowerPoint slide presentation. It's great. They do some light effect. No, they don't have anything like that. But with many other words, Peter warned them, and he pleaded to them, save yourselves from this corrupt generation. The world's pointing you in the wrong direction. Come out. And those who accepted his message, they went, you know what? Jesus is the way. They were baptized. And about 3,000 people that one day became Christians. I mean, what a start. In the first day that the church opened, 3,000 people went, yeah, I want that in my life. It's amazing. It wasn't really a Peter thing as much as it was a God thing. But so far, it had just been this kind of little cluster of people. You know, we know about the 12 disciples, but it was actually a little bit larger than that. There was about 120 that were hanging out together, and they might have kind of gotten this idea of going, you know what, this is comfortable, because I know everybody's name. You know, when we have potluck, I know who brings the 3-bean dip, right? I don't have to guess about that. And 120 is about the right size. I feel really good. I think I can pray and sing, and they don't mind my bad singing or anything like that. And then the first day of it, they open up 3,000 people, and they suddenly went, I don't know everybody's name anymore. This is terrible. But God made the church to grow, for us to pass on our faith, for us to go out. He sends us out into the world to go, all right, you know what? Get on board with this Jesus thing. And now they might have gone, okay, well, 3,000, maybe we can adjust to that. We'll figure it out. We can incorporate 3,000. But just a few verses later, it says, every day, all those 3,000, they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes. That's small groups. Come on, keep up with me here. Broke bread in their homes. They ate together. That's small groups with glad and sincere hearts, praising God, enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. You know why? Because God made the church to grow. This is how we know what a good church is. It grows, it increases in faith. People are coming and kind of figuring things out. They're accepting what God is offering to them. And we as a Free Methodist Church go, yep, that's exactly right. That's what we want to be. And so that's going to dictate some of the things that we're going to do. We are not going to orient ourselves around this idea of going, you know what, I want to get a nice cluster of folks and then let's just kind of settle in for the long haul. And isn't this nice? No, no, no. Oh, no. We understand that what God does and starts grows. And something that grows causes problems. And if we could go into it, we're not going to go into it here. All this growth leads to some problems for them that they have to kind of sort out. And, you know, as we exist as a church and we multiply, we're going to run into problems. And they're going to be beautiful, and they're going to be wonderful, and we're going to figure it out. We're not going to know everybody's name, but we say that is what this is about. Now, I need to clarify something here of going, well, all right, everybody kind of wants to grow. There's not too many churches out there that kind of go, I don't want more people. Every church kind of says that. We want more people, but they don't really mean it. And I'm not trying to criticize other churches, and sometimes we don't even mean it. Because what we mean by, well, we want more people here, is as long as they come and they don't interrupt what I have. As long as they come and they don't sit in my seat that was preordained before the foundations of the world. This belongs to me. God engraved my name on the bottom of the seat. I don't want to have to find a new seat, right? You know, yes, of course, but I don't want to change. I want them to completely adapt to me, and they better not upset anything that I have going on. That is the very essence of what growth is. It changes and it moves things and it causes these problems. And we can see that God is adding it, but we're not going Christ-compelled addition. We go, this is about multiplication. Not just kind of, we want to add a couple of people here and a couple of people there, you know, it kind of keeps it okay. We as a denomination, we want to go, no, this thing is supposed to take over. It is supposed to send out. And what's amazing is the early church didn't quite get this. So the first day, God goes, okay, guys, get ready. I'm sending you 3,000 people. And they're like, whoa. And then they're like, okay, maybe that's okay. But more people started coming. They're like, all right, we'll try to adapt, but we're all going to stay together. The first church tried to stay all together in Jerusalem. If we had kept going that route, all we would have ever had is one church in Jerusalem. The commute for you on Sunday mornings would have been a killer, right? Can't make it for the donuts and coffee because the flight took off too late. No, but that's what they kind of thought. They were like, well, we'll just kind of stay together here. We'll keep this all together. And God was like, guys, come on. I'm not just about addition. I'm about multiplication. And so God sent them a gift. It's a wonderful gift. You ready for this gift? It says, on that day, talking about another event, on that day, a great persecution broke out against the church in Jerusalem, and God went, Merry Christmas. What? God sent persecution. Well, it doesn't exactly say that, but the tone of the whole book is that God's behind this, of going, you guys aren't getting it. You think that you're going to just kind of keep this for yourselves. That's not what I want. And so if I have to send you my precious gift of persecution, I will. Because watch what happens. A great persecution broke out against the church. And everyone except the apostles. Wait a minute. The apostles are the guys that we pay to go get this done. My job is to show up, sit down, and make sure the show is good enough for me. Oh no. Everyone except the apostles were scattered throughout Judea and Samaria. Those were the surrounding areas. Oh, this thing is all over. Godly men buried Stephen, who had just been killed. They mourned deeply for him. Things were just falling apart. Saul, he was a persecutor of the church. He began to destroy the church, going from house to house. He dragged off both men and women and put them in prison. This is a bad day, a bad week for the church. But it's verse 4 that God's interested. All those who had been scattered preached or shared the word wherever they went. It's because of these 3 verses that if you claim Christ in your heart, you can. Because if it was up to the church, they'd have just kept it in Jerusalem. It's for us. It's for our little group. God can add a few people, but it's not going to go much bigger than this. And God goes, I want the whole world. And if the only way that I can send you out is by persecuting you and scattering you, not as professionals, but anyone who said, yes, Jesus is in my life. He sent them to all the surrounding areas. And this begins the rest of the story of how it just begins to expand and goes across and around the globe. Because God was always about multiplication. This is not private. This isn't for a little cluster. This is for the whole world. And he invites us into that as a church. Not to resist this placement where we kind of do our little holy huddle. I get what I want, and I'm satisfied, and well, good luck for everybody else. Watch out, God might send you some persecution to send you out. All right, let me talk about it in different terms. The experience I have is radically different than my children's experience. When I was growing up, eating watermelons was fun because God put all these little pellets in there. And you could not only enjoy the succulent watermelon, you got to battle with your siblings, right? Go around, right? They're nice, little hard, they're like aerodynamic. You know, if you got very good at it, you could shoot them quite a ways. Not so for my kids. They have been persecuted. They've been rescued by the agricultural system that now about 90% of all watermelons are seedless watermelons. And now you get to just enjoy the succulent watermelon and you spit nothing on anyone. Isn't that just awful? Isn't that awful? Well, I mean, they taste basically the same. They've gotten it to where the taste is about the same. But these two are radically different things. One of these is built for multiplication and one is not. One is only built for right now. You get that? Seedless watermelon is all about just right now. I don't want to have to deal with all those seeds. I don't want to have to spit them out. And so we've adapted what God has given us so that we can just eat it and swallow it. Now, it actually does have seeds to it. They're these little white pods that are baby seeds that haven't developed and they never will develop. Just genetically, they're not going to be capable. And so they're just these little kind of immature shells of a seed. They look like a seed, but they have nothing of a seed. Because you could save all of those and plant all of them and you get nothing. But that original watermelon is not just about right now. It's about forever. Because in every single one of them, you didn't get one seed to replace the one watermelon. You got a whole ton of seeds. If you saved those and dried them and planted them next year, watered them right and sunshined them right and put them in good soil, right? You would have a whole other crop. And you would multiply how many watermelons? When we talk about, are we a Christ-compelled multiplication church? We're asking the question, what type of watermelon are we? Are we just going, I want to know whether this church suits me. I like the music, I like the message, I like the donuts, I like the whatever. You know, the comfy chairs, they're what really makes me come. And that's all I'm really concerned about. That's a seedless watermelon. Is this comfortable for me right at the moment? But we want to be a church, the old school church here, or the old school watermelon, where we're going, no, yes, we get the fruit of this, but we were always meant for more, that this thing was going to multiply, that inside of this, the faith that I have is meant to be shared and to be handed off, is to be invested into other people. It's not private. God has given me, invited me to share this faith. That's the type of church that we want to be. So if that's what multiplication is, what's the Christ-compelled part? When I think of compelled, I realize today that this is like a really dated movie, even though it feels like it was just last week. So don't laugh at me, all right? So, you know, Forrest Gump. That feels like it just came out a couple of weeks ago. It's been like 25 years or something like that. Crazy. When I think of compelled, I think of a scene in that. Do you know the scene that I'm going to come to? It's when he's over in Vietnam, and they get bushwhacked there, and so they're all retreating, and they're all running, and Forrest does what he was told to do. He just runs, and he gets out, and he finally realizes what? I'm all alone, and this is a bad thing. And my very bestest friend, Bubba, is not with me. And so what does he do? He goes back into the jungle where the enemy is, and he starts looking for his friend Bubba. Bubba, where are you? And everybody else texts, goes, oh, I'm hurt. Carry me out. And so he can't just leave them. He picks one up and he runs them all the way out. And he goes, I got to go get Bubba. He comes and goes. He finally rescues Lieutenant Dan, who is calling in an airstrike. And he's getting ready to go back in. And Dan grabs him by the collar and says, you can't go back in there. I'm going to blow up the whole jungle. And what's Forrest Gump's famous words here? I gotta get Bubba. And he runs into the danger zone. That's compelled. Right? Nothing will stop him. Nothing will deter him. It's not just about, I'm safe. Woo, I'm good, thanks. I hope everybody else makes it out okay. It's, I understand this is not a private matter. My bestest friend Bubba is counting on me. And so I run back into the jungle until I find him and I pull him out. That is a compelled man. And what we want to be as a church, as a people of going, all right, God calls us to share our faith. Not just out of duty, not just begrudgingly, not just kind of a little bit, but to have the sense of going, look, my faith matters. As God has worked in my life, he puts me around people that I get to share this with. Not ram down their throats. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about hitting people over the head with the Bible. That doesn't work, and we're not interested in that, right? It's just going, having this compelled, instead of worrying about just me and whether I'm enjoying this or this is what I want, I am compelled to keep going and finding those that need help, that need faith. And I'm pretty well convinced that this world is full of people that have not a whole lot of elsewhere to turn to, because our world doesn't have a whole lot of hope out there. But this isn't just being kind of compelled, it's being Christ compelled. Paul writes about this. He says, look, We know what it is to fear God. We know what it is to be in a relationship with God. And so we try to persuade others. We're trying to invite them into what God is offering them. For it's Christ's love that compels us. We do this over and over. In between, he's like, some people think we're crazy. Some people think we're nuts. Some people think we're wonderful. It doesn't matter. It's not about what other people think. What Jesus has done for me compels me because of who he is and who he has been in my life. I'm convinced that he died for all, and all died. Jesus died so that we might live. And that's the message that I take out. This is the church that we want to be. Not a holy huddle, not keeping it to ourselves, not just begrudgingly, but compelled, and a people that understand what God has done in our life. So we tell others about Christ. We warn everyone, teaching everyone with all wisdom what God has given us. We want to present them to God, mature in their relationship to Christ. That's why I work. This is Paul writing. Why I work and struggle so hard, depending on Christ's mighty power that works within me. This is who we are. It's who the early church was. Paul got it. Even the early church, when they didn't understand and thought they were like, well, we'll just keep it to ourselves, God went, no, this is bigger. I send you out to share. I call you together to encourage and mature one another. It takes all of us. That's why we do small groups. I'd like to say that my sermons are amazing and wonderful and could do the entire job, but they can't. We need one another. So this brings us back to a question. What type of church are we? Are we a church of seeds that want to multiply and there's always something new? Or are we a church that's just concerned about, do I like what I have right now and is that good enough for me? We have to ask ourselves as a church, and I'm inviting you to ask that about yourself, of going, what's my place in this church? Am I just here because I like this, I like that? This satisfies my taste, and so I'm all right. Or do you hear the call of going, okay, it's okay to like things here. It's, we try to make this a nice place. But we understand that this compels us to take our faith out, to share with others, to challenge one another here and say, let's go deeper in this. Let's become fully grown up in our faith so that we multiply those that believe, we multiply those that are leaders, we multiply groups, we multiply initiatives of reaching our community. That's what the Free Methodist Church is. That's who we want to be. This is us. Let's pray. Father, your design was never just to kind of be one little thing. You want to win everyone back because you've created all people. And you invite us into that, in this great adventure of sharing our faith, of living out as people that you have saved, being examples to those outside, to those inside. And we want to see what you're doing multiply and grow, that we might be a healthy and vibrant church, that we would produce the fruit that you long and desire for. So Lord, give us the courage not to just kind of measure this selfishly of what do I want, but what are you making us into? Make us your church. Amen.